Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I just got off the phone with the official father of the Digital Asset Investor channel. He keeps on planting all these seeds in my mind about videos that I need to do. This video you're about to watch, I had already kind of pieced together with the help of I Am Legion. I Am Legion has been on fire for, I think, over 2 years in this space, but the guy is sending me things. A lot of things he's been sending out for 2 years are just now kind of clicking in my head in different ways. But today, I got off the phone with my father, and he gave me an idea for another video where I'm going to literally lay out for you how I think all this happens with XRP. And he told me how he thought I ought to tie it in, and I took notes about what I ought to do. I think it'll be a real eye-opener if you really see what I believe. This is what I truly believe in. It's not this video, but next video. Now, this video, what I wanted to do is lay out for you, we've heard the term disruption we've heard it 1,000 times in the last 2 years, that fintech and blockchain is going to disrupt different industries. We've heard Brad Garlinghouse say it. We've heard Christine Lagarde say it. We've heard all kinds of people say disruption, disruption, disruption. Well, what I want to talk about today is who is being disrupted and how they tie into everything, because and this is kind of the premise of why I invest in XRP instead of a Bitcoin. The people that are going to be disrupted are not going to be disrupted. They're going to make sure that they are a part of it. And I've been trying to drive this point home over the last 2 weeks. I believe that because Ripple went straight to the regulators, hence the power, they have been working with the people that were going to be disrupted from day one. And that's why XRP is the one. Okay, if they had not done that, XRP would not be the one. So I want to just show you just some of how all these different people tie in and who's going to be disrupted. And it was from a slide that I showed yesterday, but I'm going to go further into it and really show you how all this works. Okay, I think a lot of it will be an eye opener. But before I get into that, I did see a tweet that I needed to cover. This is from Mark Phillips. Remember, he's the guy that wrote the article that XRP was designed for $10,000. Ripple is hiring a senior manager, Bank Secrecy Act, Anti-Money Laundering, BSA, AML, and Economic Sanctions Program. Does this sound like they're worried about XRP being deemed a security? Looks to me like a prep to be a major international financial player. Well, he has a link to the LinkedIn right here. I'm trying to look to make sure that my name is not being shown anywhere on this slide. A lot of times on LinkedIn, they've got it remembers who you are and things like that, but I don't see my name here. Oh well. But this is the senior manager, BSA, AML, Economic Sanctions Program. My question to you all is, what do you think about when you hear economic sanctions? Well, what I think about is articles like this. This is an article from back February 27th. Iranian general calls for use of crypto to evade sanctions. And I'll just tell you point blank what I believe. I believe that Ripple works all the way up to the heights of government. We've shown you multiple times how connected Ripple is. I believe that Ripple is a part of the solution. I believe that Ripple is a part of the global reset and going forward. And I don't think an economic sanctions program is even there unless Ripple is working hand in hand with the governments of the world to help prevent bad guys from doing bad things. And I think this pretty much, this right here, the economic sanctions program literally just jumped off the page at me. All right, now let's go and talk about disruption. Now I'm going to try to make sure I tie in this with everybody who's anybody. Okay, remember this slideshow, I went to Google, I typed, this is from yesterday when I typed Blythe Masters. Blythe Masters, remember, was with JP Morgan for 27 years, leaves, and then eventually forms the Digital Asset Group. Digital Asset Group is owned by huge banks. Citi, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Accenture, just a few different companies to name a few. The big boys, the boys who who my dad says there won't be a global reset without them. Those guys, they started Digital Asset Group. This was found on the it's digitalasset.com, which is the Digital Asset Group's website. This is a presentation that was done by this autonomous research and apparently presented to them. Well, and I think this is from around 2015. Well, here it is, the potential for disruption. And I showed you this slide yesterday, but I want to focus on these. Who are the losers? In other words, who's going to be disrupted if they don't do something about this? Okay? Clearinghouses and custodians have the most to lose if settlement becomes automated. Banks may lose revenue from trade, finance, and international payments. All incumbents can adopt the technology to lower costs and ultimately fees to customers. If they do not, then new startups will begin to take customers from the incumbents. In other words, if they do not get on board with the Ripples of the world, their new customers will move away from them, and the bank. So in other words, to sum it up, clearinghouses, custodians, banks, huge mega banks, they all stood to lose. And so what did they do? They began to weave their web into fintech. That's what they did. So let's look today at a lot of those webs, okay? So first, I want to drive the point home about disruption. This is David Schwartz, the CTO of Ripple, one of the creators of the XRP ledger. This is from XRP Crow. Listen to David Schwartz.
When we talk to our customers, banks and financial institutions, banks in particular, they're getting squeezed by their correspondents. That's a very expensive relationship for them to maintain. They're losing business to non-bank payment companies. And banks have discovered, they used to think to some extent, like, we don't care about payments, that's not how we make our money. We make our money because we hold people's money and we make loans, and that's how we make all our money. But if I'm not using a bank for my payments, why would I keep my money there? Like, I want to keep my money where I can make my payments, and then why would I go to the bank with for a loan if I don't have a relationship with them, like, and they're facing loan competition from these online loan companies? Like, banks are realizing that there's disruption happening, and they're looking for some fundamental way to do things better, and we're offering that to them, and Swift really isn't. I think.
Okay, and I want you to watch this. This is from Christine Lagarde from the IMF. This is from Stephen Bull from the DEP. Christine Lagarde, who at the time is the managing director of the IMF. Listen to what she says about disruption.
New technologies that will actually change the way in which intermediation is conducted, eliminate some of the barriers, including the unconscious biases that exist out there. And you know, I think in the banking system at large, in many countries, the difference will not be between those who are disrupted and those who survive, but it will be between those who are cannibalized because they are not seeing it coming and they're not embracing it, and those who self-induce that cannibalization. And I'm using cannibalization on purpose because it's a bit of a striking, horrible word, but it's really what it means. It's you're going to disrupt your business model, you're going to change it, you're going to reduce your cost, you're going to expedite your transactions, and you're going to continue to inspire confidence because you will build that on the basis of an existing backbone, which is your bank and the confidence relationship that you've established with your customers. So that's where I see changes happening now. If you think of Circle and Ripples and all those, that's where they are active and helpful. Into new
so she actually mentions Circle and Ripple. Circle, which is backed by Goldman Sachs, and Ripple. All right, so now I just wanted to show you a lot of the companies, and I'll name them as that are potential disruptors. Now remember, or disrupted. Remember, they said custody and clearance or settlement, as well as banks would be the ones disrupted. So all of those old school people, they have to figure out how to keep from being disrupted. Well, let's start with Swift. Swift, who runs Swift? Who are the people that are going to be disrupted? Now, as we see these, if I remember, I'll tell you how they relate to Ripple as well. Let's see. This guy is the managing director of Citi. Remember, Citi is invested in the Digital Asset Group, right? This is, let me see, when I see the ones that I recognize, ING, I'll show you in this video how ING is involved with Ripple. Let's see if we can go along. Santander, is using Ripple technology. We showed you that. And remember Blythe Masters, who started the digital asset group, who is from JP Morgan. When she left, she got on Santander's board. Head settlement of Swift. I don't recognize that name. This is the Bank of China. Deputy investor SEB, UBS. We've seen things involving them with Swift as well. Clearstream, remember that name. And we keep like Credit Suisse. I'll show you something with that here in a minute. Euroclear, remember that name. Head of transaction banking for Danske Bank. You might want to remember that one. RBC Canada, PNC. This was Ripple's first customer that went live on RippleNet. Keep going here. Commerce Bank, remember that name. Mitsubishi, UFJ, Ripple. It all ties in, folks. Let's see, I'm going to keep going here. BNP Paribas, I believe they are also, I can't remember if they're digital asset group, but I know they're part of the Hyperledger. Lloyd's Banking Group, this is one of the question marks out there. Deutsche Bank, okay, these are basically the people that run Swift, folks. So the question is, if they run Swift, they would have to be setting up to keep from being disrupted if they thought that Swift was going to be disrupted. So here we go. All right, the CLS group, we've talked about CLS. No one has contributed to more growth of this market than CLS. We're proud to be the world's leading provider of FX settlement services. So this is one of the settlement arenas that would be disrupted. Settlement services, launching in 2002, we transformed FX with our innovative approach to multilateral netting and settlement. All right, these guys, so they're involved in settlement. Definitely someone who could be disrupted. Well, who is it that owns CLS? Let's look at that. Bank of America. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? AIG. Bank of Montreal. Oh, there's BNY Mellon, right? SIBC. Remember that name. Citibank, Goldman Sachs, RBC, Northern Trust. Remember, just as an FYI, Northern Trust is one of the largest custodians, one of the largest shareholders in SBI, which owns, which SBI is the largest outside shareholder of Ripple. Morgan Stanley, we know that name. JP Morgan. State Street, also one of the largest custodians, which is one of the largest shareholders of SBI, which owns is the largest outside shareholder in Ripple and in R3. TD Ameritrade, which was just bought by Charles Schwab. Wells Fargo, who I believe is also one of the owners of the digital asset group. And then we move along. Who's someone else that could be disrupted? DTCC. Established in 1999, the DTCC is a holding company that consists of 5 clearing corporations and 1 depository, making it the world's largest financial services corporation dealing in post-trade transactions. Let's look into DTCC a little further. DTCC is 35.1% owned by the New York Stock Exchange on behalf of the exchange's members. Now, who owns the New York Stock Exchange? ICE. Who else does ICE own? Well, ICE is the one that started BACT, which sooner rather than later is going to come out with a retail platform for digital assets. They've already created a Bitcoin platform, but they've already announced that they're coming out with other digital assets on the platform. They're going to have a retail mobile app. This is the introduction of Wall Street to digital assets. But let's read a little further about who DTCC is. It says it is operated by separate management and has an independent board of directors. It is a limited purpose trust company and is a unit of the Federal Reserve. I didn't know that until I read this, folks. The banks and brokers are merely custodians for their clients. By federal law, SEC, they cannot hold any assets in the customer's name. The assets must be held in the name of DTC's holding company. I won't go into that. Obviously, a stock, let's go down to here. Simply put, the DTC absolutely controls every paper asset transaction in the United States, as well as the majority of overseas transactions, and they now physically hold 99% of all stock and bond book entries in their street name not the actual owners' names. So anyway, going along, folks. So DTCC, let's read this too. It's quite obvious that the stock markets are going to crash and burn at some future date. And for some reason, and for some unknown reason, the Great Depression is about to be repeated. And it will be as deliberate and manipulated as the first one that began with the stock market crash of 1929. We are without a doubt on the brink of the mother of all economic depressions. And they're relating this to DTCC and how all that runs and the settlement there. All right, who are DTCC's competitors? Euroclear out of Brussels, Belgium, right? Which I think, isn't that somewhere near where the Rothschilds are? And Clearstream in Luxembourg. Remember when Chris Larsen was in Luxembourg to meet with the prime minister or the finance minister of Luxembourg? Remember the picture of Brad Garlinghouse in the funny glasses that said Luxembourg on it? And he was with, I think, Luxembourg's financial minister. Remember Chris Larsen in another picture here in the United States? He's in a picture with the finance minister of Luxembourg, I believe. All right, moving along. But remember, the competitors to DTCC are Euroclear and Mainstream. Okay, or I'm sorry, not Mainstream, Clearstream. But here's Euroclear. Let's watch a little video on that.
You're part of the 2,000 financial institutions that form the Euroclear network. Our 7 central securities depositories, including Euroclear Bank, connect investors from over 120 countries to issuers in 50 markets. At the core, we settle transactions and safeguard assets. We help global markets to process transactions efficiently, enhance liquidity, and reduce risk. Last year, we processed transactions worth 791 trillion euros, some 10 times the global economic output. And you trust us to hold 30 trillion euros in assets, 2 times the GDP of the European Union. Through our network, you can access a range of asset classes: international and domestic bonds, equities, derivatives. We're the place for funds, with over 2.1 trillion euros fund assets under custody, including international ETFs, and Eurobonds, with over 9 trillion euros issuance outstanding. Together, our global network continues to expand. As new markets become Euro-clearable, issuers appreciate the benefits of attracting international investors to their economies.
I won't show you the whole thing, but that you can get the gist of it. Trillions of dollars, this thing that's run through this place. And then here's Clearstream. Clearstream's an important player in the securities service industry with consistently high ratings. As an international central securities depository based in Luxembourg. Now remember, Luxembourg, when I think of Luxembourg, I think of those ministers of finance from Luxembourg that the guys at Ripple met with. And there's one other thing I think of. Remember that little, it was the Rothschild fund, and on the bottom left corner it said that it was out of Luxembourg, managed out of Luxembourg, and that's the same document where we saw that the Rothschilds own a portion of SBI, and they specifically pointed out that SBI owned like 8.7 or 8 point something % of the XRP, and for that reason it had helped their financial statement that year. This is from like 2018. So this Clearstream is out of Luxembourg. I don't think that's a coincidence either. All right, so let's move along. Now, I Am Legion. I got to give this guy, this guy must be a freaking genius, because this guy's been tying all this together for over 2 years before I even knew what any of this was about. And so let's go through some things that I Am Legion uncovered, and just what we've said before is under every rock is Ripple or XRP. You see it everywhere. Now, He's tying Ripple, Swift, Euroclear, ABN, AMRO, SIA, Clearstream, AQ, LAX, and R3 together here. The first is this. This is one of Ripple's hires, Marjan Delatine, a global head of banking at Ripple. So where does she come from? Well, she was with Swift, business director at Swift, out of Belgium, right? Head of business development, payments, market initiatives. Let's see where else she was. Oh, there she was at Euroclear, senior sales and relationship manager responsible for portfolio of securities assets comprising over 60 clients, including major financial institutions, government agencies, family offices, And then where else was she? Well, she was a business manager at BNY Mellon. So this lady has like the ultimate supercharged resume. She's been at all of these companies. As you go down, I Am Legion has just laid all this out. Right here, ABN AMRO has recently joined R3, an innovation firm focused. Remember, folks, all this stuff I'm showing you, all of these roads from these guys who stand to be disrupted, all of these roads somehow, some way lead back to R3, Hyperledger, Ripple, somehow, some way. They all lead back to that. And that is more or less a couple of consortiums that are going to bring about all of this global reset, folks. And that's the plan, Jan. Okay? Okay, so they focused on a new generation of technologies. R3 has built a network of prominent players. And then it says here, InstaPay, ABN selects SIA to cope with instant payments. This AMRO, one of the largest banks in the Netherlands, linking to EBA clearings, pan-European RT1. These are talking about SIA there. Let's see, there's one more here. And then Euro, CCP, Euroclear, and NASDAQ complete blockchain POC for margin calls. So now he's linking it to NASDAQ as well. All right. So now let's keep going. And then he's got this. Clearstream is a post-trade service. We just showed you Clearstream. It says they're in Luxembourg. And then let's see what else he's got here. Deutsche Börse invests in blockchain startup for securities. Investment expands the partnership with HQLAX, established in March. And then the next thing is, let me see if he's right here. The investment expands the partnerships with HQLAX, first established in March this year, with the aim of building a fully integrated front-to-back operating model for securities lending transactions using blockchain technology developed by the R3 consortium. You see this, folks? All right, here we go. We keep going. What's Euroclear? Euroclear is one of two principal clearing houses. Remember, these guys are competitors to DTCC. Swift and CSD Community Advanced Blockchain. The depositories join forces to demonstrate the value of standards and distributed ledger technology for securities markets. And then finally, this one. The promise of the technology on paper is great, but it is currently missing a key component around standardization. There's clear value in reusing established business definitions and facilitating interoperability amongst DLT implementations, which this project will demonstrate. That's a guy from Swift. And then he goes on. We're very excited to welcome the CSD working group on DLT. Says this guy from Six Security Services, Chairman ISSA. And then it goes on and on. There's a lot of potential for DLT. So DLT, when you hear DLT, you may as well just go ahead and think Ripple and what's going on with R3 and of course Hyperledger. Then he's got this. It goes on. Looks momentum behind establishing crypto assets, cryptocurrencies. Swift plays an active role in supporting ISSA with the seat of executive board and operating committee, and by taking part in various ISSA working groups. Let's go to the next page and see it. Distributed ledger technology from ISSA, principles for industry-wide acceptance. This is from June 2018. This guy has all the documentation. All right, let's go to the next thing. Let me see if I can read these. Institutions represented by experts in the group. And if you look here, it's got Singapore Stock Exchange, NSD Russia, NASDAQ's on here, ISSA, Euroclear, DTCC, Deutsche Börse Group. I'm just naming a few of them here. Okay, so you can see how all this stuff kind of ties together. And then he's copied this to a few people here, and then he put this here. The Euroclear Group settled the equivalent of euro 733 trillion in securities transactions in 2017, representing 215 million domestic and cross-border transactions, held euro 28.6 trillion in assets for clients. Unbelievable numbers there, folks. Now, let's look at some more people that potentially are disrupted. The largest clearing firms for broker-dealers. The first one on the list is Pershing LLC. Now, we don't know that name until you go to their website, Pershing.com. BNY Mellon Pershing. So it's BNY Mellon is this company. They are the largest custody company and the largest clearing firm, is my understanding. And if you go on, you've got Merrill Lynch here towards the top. You got JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, RBC, Southwest Securities. Let's see who else we see. Raymond James is on the list. But anyway, you see all the big names there that stand to be disrupted. And these are the names we've been talking about for the last week. Well, what did we talk about? The biggest people that are going to be disrupted, right? It's going to be the people. Remember, BNY Mellon is the largest custody, and I believe they're the largest clearing as well. Well, BNY Mellon to me is at the very, very center of all of this, folks. I'm going to show you another example of why I think so. Now, remember, we're looking at PolySign right here. PolySign is the most secretive custody solution for digital assets that has been going on. And look here, I've shown you this before. PolySign's custody solution supports the full spectrum of digital assets and is designed to scale to the trillions under management. I believe PolySign connects to all of this. It's not a and remember, the guys that left, the people that formed PolySign were mostly people that left Ripple. But there's another guy there that's important. Let's look at who that is. PolySign, right? All right, go down here. This guy is one of the guys, Arthur Britto's the mysterious guy that helped create the XRP ledger. He left Ripple to form this, okay? He's president and founder and board member. Let's go to and then of course David Schwartz is a board member and he's the CTO of Ripple. Anna Tong left Ripple and went to PolySign. This is the guy I want you to look at. Tim Keaney was the vice chairman of BNY Mellon. So just to reiterate, BNY Mellon, the largest custody and clearing company in the world, is my understanding, just happens to be, remember, that one of the heirs to the BNY Mellon fortune died and was one of the largest XRP holders. How does that happen? BNY Mellon has been all around Ripple and this whole thing. Then they put this Tim Keaney guy goes to be a senior advisor and board member for PolySign, right? So here's BNY Mellon, who's a traditional custody company which stands to be disrupted. And then they put Tim Keaney as a board member of PolySign, this very secretive digital asset custody company that is designed to scale to the trillions under management, right? That we know nothing about, okay? This guy, let's look further into Tim Keaney and what he's about. I looked on his LinkedIn page, all right? So yeah, it shows you that here he was 14 years at BNY Mellon, culminated as vice president and member of BNY Mellon's 12-person executive committee. Well, guess what else he does, or what else he did? Prior to senior roles held at Deutsche Bank, Bankers Trust, and Mellon Bank, right? Well, look what else he was on. He was the chairman of the finance, he's the chairman, board member and chairman of the finance committee of this, which I haven't even looked at. But other board positions have included Euroclear Bank, right? Folks, I'm going to tell you again, Ripple and PolySign and XRP and Hyperledger and R3 is about all of the money in the world. It's going to be all of the money, and it's all going to interact, and the XRP ledger is going to be right there in the middle of it all. It's all going to be interacting. That's what is going to happen with this whole global reset. It's not a coincidence that all these banks, all these powerful people who are in the position of being disrupted are all in this game somewhere, somehow. It's not a coincidence that Ripple's underneath every rock, somewhere involved with all these people. All right, moving along. But this guy was with Euroclear. Remember, Euroclear and Clearstream were the primary competitors to DTCC. These guys are all on the same page. It's all the same game. Everybody's making sure that they're not disrupted as we hit this global reset into this system. And if you're an XRP holder, I believe that they know that most people that ever held XRP will be out relatively fast. I believe the ones that stick around and actually hold for when this all really happens are going to be some of the wealthiest people in the history of the world. I truly believe that. I've seen so much now at this point that I don't think there's any way that this goes down this way without that happening. All right. Let's move along. So here are some more. I just wanted to show you some more. This custodians buy assets under custody. BNY Mellon, largest custodian. Euroclear, largest custodian. The guy from BNY Mellon, who's on the board at PolySign, was also on the board at Euroclear. JP Morgan, State Street, Citi, BNP Paribas, HSBC. Chris Larson was on one of their boards. Mitsubishi UFJ has one of Ripple's has worked with Ripple. Societe Generale, the Northern Trust, who's also one of the owners in SBI, UBS. Folks, in your mind, if you've listened to my videos over the last 2 or 3 weeks, this should all start. It's like a puzzle, and it all starts kind of piecing together if you're really paying attention to all these things. And I'm doing these long videos to try and bring it all together in some of your minds. Now, I am back to I Am Legion, and this guy deserves so much credit. He starts with Finality. Let's look at Finality. This is a company. They have been founded to create a network of decentralized financial market infrastructures to deliver the means of payment on-chain in tomorrow's wholesale banking markets. They're backed by a consortium of financial institutions, including many of the globally, systemically important banks. Remember, things all tie together in my mind now. Do you remember the other day when the lady from Ripple did a Ripple drop? And she was talking about how XRP could help if the banks were in danger systemically. She used the word systemically, and that's what I thought about when I saw this. So let's go back to Finality. Let's see who is in there. I Am Legion lays it out for us. Their shareholders. Banco Santander, Ripple partner. There's BNY Mellon right there in the middle of all of it. Barclays, CIBC, Commerce Bank, Credit Suisse, ING, KBC Group, Lloyd's Banking Group. This one is one we're waiting on. Mitsu Bank, MUFG Group, NASDAQ, Mitsu Bank, State Street. There's State Street again, UBS. He ties this all together once again. Santander, he takes them one by one. Santander becomes the first UK bank to use Ripple for cross-border payments. This is Santander, SBI. This is from the SBI Group. Santander Bank releases international remittance app using Ripple's X Current. He goes on. Here's Santander. Listen to this. This guy is from Santander. Listen to what he says.
Individuals or to institutions, digital versions of central bank money. So we at Banco Santander and 15 other financial institutions, Credit Suisse, UBS in Switzerland, KBC, ING, Commerce Bank, Santander, Eurozone, Barclays, Lloyd's, Pounds, Bank of New York, Mellon, State Street, NASDAQ, Dollars, CIBC, Canadian Dollars, MUFG, Mizuho, SMBC, Japanese Yen. 15 banks have been working on creating central bank digital currency as a consortium for the last 3.5 years. I've been working on this for 3.5 years. Quietly, the central banks had said to us, shh, say nothing. And then our friends at Facebook announced Libra, and all of a sudden, thank you, by the way, for because we were allowed to talk about what we've been doing.
They weren't allowed to talk about what they've been doing, but all of them are involved. Bank of New York. Hey, big lender, Finastra, R3 and 7 banks have blockchain plan. BNP Paribas, BNY Mellon, HSBC, ING, State Street are working together to create a blockchain-fueled online marketplace underpinned by Corda, R3's distributed ledger technology-based platform. Okay, there you go. Ripple Labs partnered Earthport to provide Belgium's BNP, there's Belgium again, BNP Paribas bank cross-border payments. And then there's this, Paribas, BNY Mellon joined Chamber of Digital Commerce. BNY Mellon, they're all right in the center of this. Let's go on. Bank of New York Mellon, Volante and BNY Mellon's team for Paytech Innovation. Volante Technologies, a provider of software for the integration, processing, and orchestration of payments, financial messages, and U.S. banking heavyweight BNY Mellon have joined forces to create and deploy technology to enable real-time payments in the U.S. and internationally. And then it goes on to show Volante Technologies expertise and how their thing works. Now look here, right here. What do they use for their API? Ripple, right? And he even blew it up for us. Siam Legion's good. Barclays, Ripple and R3 team up with 12 banks to trial XRP for cross-border payments. R3 member banks involved in the trial include Barclays, BMO Financial Group, CIBC. You keep seeing these names pop up, folks. And then it says there are 14 financial firms led by UBS created Imperial Banking to aid. There's Finality again. And then down here they talk about Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. And then XRP Darren provided this. This is Barclays corporate. This is a slide where they're showing the flows and how this would work. I can't really see that very well. Okay, and then there's CIBC. 7 leading banks join Ripple's global network. CIBC's right here. I mean, this gets kind of overwhelming, folks, but it's like it's all right there in your face. This is from Ripple's website, CIBC. Look at all these banks that we've gone over just in today's video. Some of them that we've mentioned, MUFG, CIBC, BBVA, SBI, there's Earthport. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Then this is Commerce Bank. I mean, Credit Suisse. This is Credit Suisse solving problems for cross-border payments. ING, Dutch Bank, ING to implement Ripple crypto. And then this is ING. In March, Credit Suisse and ING implemented the first live securities lending trading worth $25 million using an application from HQLAX, a financial technology firm that was built on Corda, which is R3. KBC Group, nothing yet. Lloyd's, nothing yet. Mitsu, Ripple adds several new banks to global network. MUFG joins Ripple Global Payment Steering Group. NASDAQ, nothing yet. Sumitomo has joined SBI Ripple Asia's bank consortium. State Street. Look at this slide. HSB. Recognize any of these names? This is an R3 slide. Project LenderCom. Network of participants. BNP Paribas. State Street. Finastra. ING. HSB. BNY Mellon. UBS. They're on Ripple's website. Now, let's move along and show you. And now that you've seen all of those different types, folks, now we go back to Hyperledger and just look through some of the names. Accenture, DTCC, JP Morgan. And as we go through this, you're going to see more and more names. BBVA, you've seen that one on Ripple's website. It all leads back. All roads lead back to Ripple, Hyperledger, and R3, folks, and Digital Asset Group. CME Group is all over all of it. There's Digital Asset right there. Deutsche Börse Group, DLT. I believe this is a subsidiary of DTCC. We keep going. I want to make sure you see how all of these are a part of all of this. It's all to be interconnected. Let me find. We've gone through these before, but I want to just make sure I drive these points home. The Moscow Exchange, I think that's relevant. NTT Data, we've talked about. R3 is right there. Ripple's right there. SAP, Samsung. Let's keep going. Swift is involved in this, folks. See what else. Walmart's there. I haven't mentioned Walmart yet, but they're there. Bank of England is there. Ethereum, Enterprise Ethereum Alliance is involved. Let's see if we can find any more. That's interesting that National Association of Realtors is there. But anyway, and then let's go back to our presentation. We have to keep going back, folks, because when they talk about Fabric, they're talking about Hyperledger Fabric. Remember, Ripple becomes the standard. ILP becomes the standard by 2020. I believe this happens this year. Blockchain Solutions, Capital Market. This is when it all comes together from 2020 to 2025 for trade finance, for the financial. This is when all of those potential disruptors get on board, and they've laid this groundwork for years now, folks. So I think I'll finish there. But I want to show you this finally to make sure that we all understand the bigger picture, right? They're all there, folks. If you get down, this is the final slide. Interledger, enabling interoperability across platforms. Hyperledger, R3, digital asset holdings, Ethereum Alliance. It's all there, folks. The banks are not named here because they don't have to be named here. The banks are backing this. The banks are backing this and this. Several of these things the banks are backing. And here, right in the center of it all, you have the greatest digital asset ever created, the XRP. On the XRP ledger, you have Interledger Protocol. This is how the world changes. I'm the digital asset investor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I'm the digital asset investor. This is the longest video I've ever done, I think. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button. Tell your friends and family that XRP is the one, and that all roads that lead back to R3, Hyperledger, digital asset holdings in the Ethereum Alliance, and Ripple. Okay? All roads. And this is for all the money, folks. Not some of the money. This is for all of the money. Thank you for listening.